welcome to the Secure Dynamics TechCast. I have with me two past guests. For the first time we're joining together, I have Wendy Pfeiffer, who is the CIO at Nutanix and a board director at Qualys and SATA Systems. Welcome, Wendy.
Thanks for having me.
And Merit, who's also a past guest, who is a principal security architect at AWS and a frequent panelist and speaker as well on many topics, including cybersecurity. Welcome, Merit.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Absolutely. So let's get into a topic that I don't think is talked about much, which is you have these typical progressions of what you need to be doing in the workplace, right? Hey, do you hunker down, do your work, you'll get recognized, make sure you build a network. But I know, Merit, I was picking off on something that you had posted on Twitter, and I found that to be probably the most practical piece of advice coming from somebody who's been through that. And I want to kind of pose a few things to both of you. And this was one that, a lot of them resonated with me, but just looking at it and saying, hey, negotiate pay only after you have the offer. So, and again, that's something that you don't really hear very often. And I'm quickly going through the rest. Don't sign up for unpaid work like bringing brownies in for happy hour. Make friends who are smart. Ask them the questions you don't know. Make friends with leadership. I love this. Treat them with kid gloves. Do outside speaking engagements and build your personal brand. And don't expect that hard work will be its own reward. Ask for the promotion. So I think this is amazing practical advice. So again, Merit, I'm going to start with you saying, hey, what prompted you to kind of put this out there? And I saw the number of comments and likes, which clearly I think means that people who've been through this can completely resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, this was actually a response to a white guy who had posted something like, you know, tips for succeeding in tech. Take the work that no one else wants to do and just quietly get it done. Whatever. And it was all these things that I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that is no way to kind of approach your career with deliberateness and with, you know, an eye toward progression. I think that doing hard work is a given, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that when we take a new job or when we even like commit to reading a hard book and comprehending it, that we're like in it for some work. But jobs are paid for a reason. Jobs require some part of you to show up that isn't just the stuff you want to do. Yeah. And I think that, you know, there have been streams of this kind of guidance that's basically kept women and other, you know, underrepresented communities quiet deliberately, and is actually a strategy to like tell people, no, the system will recognize merit, right? Because, and I use that not as my name, but lowercase m, you know, the system will recognize you. And so like, you just keep plodding away and just put your head down and work hard. And that's actually something that is used as a deliberate tool, I think, to keep people quiet. And I think that what we need, you know, the sort of like Elon Musks of the world are fond of using the word, you know, disruptive innovation. And this is a Clay Christensen term. Like, these are lots of old white guys who didn't get where they are by putting their head down and doing the work no one else wanted to do. I mean, they got there in part because they had family money, but then they also got there because they were like the squeaky whatever, right? I mean, like, they were an unusual cat in their environment. And I think that part of that build your brand is just like, you know, insulate yourself from the ups and downs of the market by being someone who's good at a thing that you feel conviction there is a market for. And I think that, you know, part of this is about knowing how to keep people close. And as you said, it's kind of a cliche to have a network, but it's true. But part of it is about like, you know, even as yourself, the things that you perceive as being controllable, like, well, I worked 12 hours on, you know, Tuesday, how can I not be promoted? That's just not always the reason why people get promoted or don't. You have to be doing, you know, some of the steps in a certain kind of order. And I think that we should be telling people who didn't grow up with like parents who are, you know, guidance counselors to get them into college, or parents who are whatever, you know, professionals in this field already who can give them their first job. We should be telling people how to actually get ahead and not like feeding them these kind of well-meaning lies that prop up our economic structure, pretending like people get what they deserve.
Wendy, I know you have lots of thoughts, so on to you.
Yeah, I completely agree, Merit. I completely agree. Your thoughts have merit. I didn't just say that because, but seriously, I had a boss who gave me transformational advice. He sort of cornered me and got me to say what I really wanted to do and what I really wanted in life and in my career, and got past all of the platitudes and the polite things. And he said, ah, you're a mercenary. That's cool. Guys like me recognize that. Why don't you show up that way? My path forward after that, showing up as a mercenary, talking about the fact that this is a commercial endeavor, and I can bring great commercial value in exchange for appropriate compensation and appropriate value of my contribution. It was after that advice that I finally made it into the C-suite, that I started showing up in searches for board director positions, because finally I was speaking that language. And I've learned, I'm in my mid 50s. I'm a senior technology executive, and so there are a host of people who ask me, oh, how did you do that, and how can I be like you, and what can I do? And I've always been a little bit uncomfortable about that. But one of the things I've said is that we don't have to, speaking of personal brand, we don't have to show up and be sort of the pure version, the good version of our type. And particularly for women, we don't have to be nurturing, virtuous, sweet, feminine in order to be badass and amazing at what we do. Likewise, by the way, if we are feminine and virtuous and sweet and good, it's okay too. And we can also be badass, leaders in the technology space. And I think that's true for any underrepresented group, is that we don't have to be selfless and good in order to get ahead. And in fact, the system is set up, like Merit was saying, the system is set up actually to recognize and reward those who are as mercenary as the system itself. Now, this does not mean to be evil. Mm-hmm. It just means to understand the currency on which our jobs are based, and it's money. It's not charity. Please do also do charitable works that resonate with you, but don't conflate the two.
Well, I know we have lots of other things to discuss, but I want to stick on this topic because I know we seem to have hit a particular resonance over here. So sticking, yeah, no, it's like we can talk about other things, but again, given the length of this duration and the fact that we're on to something, I want to stick with this. And again, I'll stick with you, Wendy, for a minute. You mentioned something about a boss who took you aside and had you open up, right? So how much of where we need to be versus where we are right now resides on leadership? Doesn't necessarily have to be your boss, but somebody who takes you under his or her wing and allows you to kind of discover who you are. And that becomes kind of this light bulb moment for you, right? So talk a little bit about that role. And obviously there's one boss who played that, but are you helping others kind of get through that mental hurdle as well?
I'm a cranky introvert, and I do not naturally take well to mentoring, and I have struggled to mentor in my life and struggled to be a role model. I suck a little less at it because I'm now a parent, and I've learned that by default, the things we do are visible and are imitated or abhorred by our kids, and so I feel like I'm showing up differently. I have mixed thoughts about that. For most of my career, there was no worthy mentor. There was no worthy example. And the advice I got was advice that weakened me and didn't connect to my core. And so I want people to be discerning. I want people to know, to have more than anything else, the personal discernment to know when that advice is strengthening you and when that mentoring is strengthening you or not. Often, as people who show up differently, a person of color or a person who comes from another culture or who is a different age than the others in the group, we get advice to, and that advice says, act like them. Essentially, like, you would show up better. We would receive your ideas better if you changed how you present yourself. I am against that kind of mentoring and that kind of advice. At the same time, we can be discerning about those who truly understand us. And there are these moments in my career, like this moment with my boss. I mean, I worked for him for a couple of years. This was, 30 minutes during that couple of years where he spoke amazing truth to me and got me to listen to him and to take that on board. So I would love to give the positive mentoring message. I have really mixed thoughts about it, particularly if you march to your own drummer and you are wired differently. As an example, the biggest motivator in my life has been anger and bitterness. And, if I went to a therapist, the therapist would tell me to get rid of those things. I've used those things. That's a form of fuel for me. It doesn't mean I'm mean to people, but that energy is at my core. And so I can tell, what you may want me to say, but I am of mixed thoughts about that. Finally, though, always know that when you are in a position of leadership or authority, you are the prototype example for someone. Maybe not for everyone, but for someone. So we also have to have discernment as people who might potentially mentor, or as people who are leaders or who show up with some public brand, is know that there's someone who is hearing your words like water in the desert. And like in short, try not to be a jerk when those moments occur.
Final thoughts, Merit.
Wow, there's so much in there. So I'm on Wendy's wavelength when it comes to like, don't apologize for your ambition, right? You don't have to go in and ask for the promotion and be like, I had a baby last year, so like, I really need it. Like, it doesn't matter. Your business doesn't care whether you had a baby. They care whether you're, producing value. But I think that I would extend her analogy or whatever, her description over to nonprofit and to government and to folks that are not explicitly a bottom line that is money. There's still like producing on target, and you will still need to negotiate your own pay to take home, even when you want to go change the world. So I think that like this is one of the things that I can totally relate to among the things Wendy said. Is like, a lot of times I think it's still a distraction technique to take the candidate, and by the way, if it's not a white cis male, it's probably going to have more power, but you take the candidate aside and you say, so you're not committed to the mission, you're asking for another 20K or 50K, or, like, we want missionaries, not mercenaries here, and that's just complete bullshit, right? I mean, like, you need to go to bat for yourself throughout the trajectory of your career, even if you're, and that doesn't, I guess I shouldn't say even if, but like including the part of you that wants to change the world. You need to have the economy of your own side to be able to take some job risks and go work for Greenpeace, or to take some job risks and do something interesting at a startup or whatever, all of the things, or to earn more so you can donate more on a philanthropic or political or whatever level is important to you. So I think that, there's definitely a thread there of just like, I think we pay a toll sometimes on the collective if we are perceived to be too ambitious. This is something that it's well-trod ground, but I mean, I've been told before, like, people just don't, they don't like the way you come off. And so I have said, can you explain more? Like, what do you think the issue is? And almost inevitably, like, the leader who's talking to me actually says, I think they just have a problem with women. And I am kind of like, well, you know, then I might as well ask for the 20K more and let them have a problem with women, like with or without my actions. You know what I mean? There's just some part of being a pragmatist that I think Wendy is really hitting on. And from the sort of mentorship perspective, I hate that word. I don't think it's a useful thing at all. I especially hate the kind of well, at least for me personally, it has never resonated to have the sort of like corporate or geographic or, you know, like the Harvard or the sorority or the whatever mentorship network. It just doesn't add value in my view because they didn't come across like holistically. I think in my life, I have gotten every opportunity through some kind of first, second, third, fourth degree relationship. And I think that's true for almost everyone in this world. Like you work hard, but you still have to have folks on, you know, on deck who will pick up the phone for you. But that is not a like a mentorship relationship. I would say like I sometimes refer to it as like a ballet patron type thing where they want to see you shine, but it reflects back on them, or like a rabbi kind of back and forth. But I don't know what the right word is. All I can say is that I think, or champion or something, but these are actually back and forth. So like when junior folks come to Wendy and say like, can you be my mentor? She probably thinks, what does that even mean? Are you just like asking to get on my calendar? Because I could probably find, but like, what's it about? I mean, it's just nonsensical versus asking for a specific amount of time to discuss a crossroads or a thing or an idea and have written it up in bullet points and ask for, you know, her to read it while they're watching for, you know, 20 minutes and then give feedback and then allow relationships to be their own kind of determinant. And again, this is something that like people who don't come from positions of power don't realize how important those kinds of interactions are and don't realize that you can ask for that. You absolutely can, but like asking for a quote unquote mentor starts to just feel watered down.
Wow, I know there's a lot in here, and we never got past point one, but I mean, I love it because I think there's so much over here. I'm sure we're going to come back again and engage both of you again. Thanks for your time, Merit. Thanks for your time, Wendy, for joining me.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.